Good morning, everyone. The workshop for June 15th will begin. Two major subject areas will include the legislation session review, and following that, approximately 10:45, we'll have the student code of conduct. Just for a little tiny bit of housekeeping, because we do have a full schedule today. Great information. The legislative session review is for 10:30 to 10:40. We'll have one round of questions. Ms. Kristen Davis, thank you, will be leading that. And then following that, we'll have the student code of conduct led by Ms. Bays. Good morning, Ms. Bays. And she'll command the attention from 10:45 to 11:45, perhaps 12, perhaps a little later. If for some reason we have we go over on the discipline, I think both Superintendent Davis and I agree that perhaps we can put some of it in the special session on Thursday. We may have some time. So, but let me go ahead and keep my mouth shut so we can get started. And I just want to say good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. Ms. Snively and Dr. Hahn are on their way, and they'll be here perhaps another 10, 15 minutes. Good morning, Superintendent Davis.
Good morning, Ms. Gray and Chair Gray. Thank you so very much, and good morning all board members and staff and everyone that's here this morning. Today is a really important day to be able to really unpack the legislative session and how it truly impacts us as not only a school district, but in the state of education, identifying how we will navigate through school choice, looking at overarching educational bills along with appropriations, and being able to discuss, what adjustments we have to make as a school district as we prepare for the 21-22 school year. And then after that, we'll transition to the Code of Student Conduct to be able to discuss what overarching changes and where we currently are from a discipline perspective, from an arrest perspective, what are we doing to eliminate the school to prison pipeline, and how we're taking as a collective in order to make certain that children have a really safe, environment every single day at our schools, and our employees have a safe working condition as well. I'm going to transition this time to Kristen Davis in Governmental Affairs with team members to be able to discuss and launch the legislative updates.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, board members. So, as you know, this session was like really no other session. With COVID, with federal relief funding, 3 rounds of it, and then with the political landscape of our leadership, very similar as far as with the governor and the House and the Senate. So we saw many different bills come through. About almost 3,100 bills were filed, 275 passed both chambers, and about 40 of those were education related. You didn't really see this session a big train bill. A few of our bills, workforce, about 118 pages. There were a few that were maybe 70, 80 pages, but you didn't see the traditional 500-page train bill, which we've seen the past few years. So we're unpacking those individual bills, and we're going to walk through a few of them with you today. And as you know, guidance still has not been released for most of these bills. I mean, a lot of them are still just being sent to the governor for his consideration. Friday about 12 bills were sent. Last night about 26 bills were sent. So we know, based on the political makeup, we know, probably what will be signed, what will be passed, and so that's why we're prepared to go through these with you. So I'm going to jump right into our agenda and our goals. So the goals for this legislative workshop are to provide a quick progress on our priorities that were driven by this board and the district, to provide highlights on policies affecting public education, including House Bill 7045, school choice, and Senate Bill 1028, education, as well as our nuts and bolts on our appropriations, our budget, and our Florida retirement system contribution rates. So we will go ahead and move right into our priorities before I toss it over to Matt. So you see up here in front of you and on the screen are 9 legislative priorities from the 2021 legislative platform. I highlighted in green the ones that would kind of consider wins. Purple Start Campuses was signed into law on June 4th, effective on July 1. On the next board meeting, June 29th, planning on doing a little mini recognition with Representative Andrew Learned, who helped drive this for us, and so we'll do a little something on that. Our ELL waiver of assessment, the Senate Bill 1108, titled Education. Terry Connor's going to go over this more, but there is a piece in there, not driven by the bill that we were pushing, but there's a piece that allows some of our ELL students to demonstrate grade level experience, basically to kind of do, there's a waiver, which is great. So again, Terry's going to go through that. Our mental health excused absence, very well supported in the House and committee, very, very bipartisan support, didn't move at all in the Senate. So we're going to try again, if the board, if it pleases the board, try again next session on that. Our general knowledge test, DOE, very interested in this. They kind of essentially asked us to move away with the legislative ask of it and work with them at the DOE level, and so we are going to continue to work on this for the general knowledge test industry certification, a teacher preparation pathway, to be a leader and help with the work, because we kind of keep pushing them. So I think they're real interested in that. And then as far as our appropriations request, did highlight the increase in student funding, because we know that the per student funding went up $38 and the base student allocation went at $53. However, we do know the reality of the FEFP and the funding, and Roe will go over that because we are actually down about $6.3 million. So again, I know it's highlighted as a win, but we will go over that a little bit later. And then the remaining, the summer bridge did make it through session and into the budget, was vetoed by the governor, along with $1.5 billion of other projects. And then our other items, the K-8 STEAM, IB Magnet Academy, and Plant City Technical High School, they didn't make it too far. Veteran teacher compensation, we did receive an additional $50 million in the teacher salary allocation categorical, but we're still working for those veteran teachers. So we will move over to House Bill 7045 with Matt Romano. This, you'll remember Senate Bill 48 during session. This essentially is similar to that. The House and Senate agreed on this piece of legislation, House Bill 7045. So what you're familiar with Senate Bill 48, that this is what Matt Romano is going to walk you through now. It was signed into law on May 11th and is effective July 1. Some provisions are different dates. So I'm going to toss it over to Matt to go through it.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning. It wouldn't be a Florida legislative session without having something that impacts school choice and scholarships lately. And while this year the legislature did not add any new scholarships, they did increase what the access is in terms of the ability for families to apply for it, and they're going to be consolidating. So that's what I'm going to be going through in this first slide. So first thing, the Family Empowerment Scholarship, which I believe now is in its third year, it's now been expanded to 100% of the FEFP funding. It was previously 95%, so there was a 5% holdback that districts could use for administrative costs, because we do have to reconcile the funding to make sure that the pay files are accurate that the state sends us, and they do that quarterly. And the income threshold has been increased to 375% of the federal poverty level. I believe last year, the last time it was 350%. And just to give the board a perspective on this, and I looked this up, a family of four that makes approximately $100,000 would be eligible for the Family Empowerment Scholarship, given this new threshold that the legislature put through. So, as I said, they're going to be consolidating. So currently we have the Gardner Scholarship and the McKay Scholarship. They've existed for a number of years, but what the legislature has decided to do is to consolidate first with Gardner, effective this July, and then next year with McKay. So family empowerment is going to really fall into two areas. There's going to be the income-based Family Empowerment Scholarship, and now there's going to be a disability-based Family Empowerment Scholarship. So for McKay and Gardner, those are based on IEPs and based on a diagnosis of a disability from a medical personnel. So right now, as I said, Gardner is going to be effective this July, and then next year will be McKay. The other thing, which really is for students, that they never now have to enter the public school system. If you can come in as a kindergartner and you do not have to go to a public school, you can apply for a Family Empowerment Scholarship and you can stay in a private school for the remainder. So that is something that is new, and they put that in this year's legislation. All three of these scholarships, they are focused on private schools, okay, in terms of where families can take their options. So this has nothing to do with charters in these scholarships as they exist. So as far as the impact for our school district, the last time, and it was 2 years ago, our free reduced lunch, because by statute, every family or student that is eligible for free or reduced lunch must be notified of their eligibility for the Family Empowerment Scholarship. Keep in mind, that's just who we have to notify. There are many more families that are eligible, but we do not have to notify them. And again, we are just complying with the statute. So we have currently, in terms of how many students have exercised that option in families, 1,875 for the Family Empowerment. We have just over 1,000 for the Gardner and about 1,798 for the McKay Scholarship. As far as a fiscal impact, and again, these are all approximations. So you look at the average scholarship for the FES, we calculated about $7,000 a student. And again, that's an approximation. For the McKay Scholarship, it's a little bit more, about $8,500. And the Gardner, which is based on certain services, that's $10,464. That was provided by the state. I got that off DOE. So if you look, in terms of our district, we're looking at about almost $40 million in terms of FTE that leaves our district and goes to various private schools. So again, while they didn't add a scholarship this year, they have made the accessibility easier for families in terms of what the thresholds are. Okay, and as I said again, the McKay Scholarship, that will be next year. So we always comply with the statute in terms of notification. They did change that timeline. It previously had been April 1st. This year, you now have to notify families by January 1st. So that's what we will be doing. If you take a look at the next slide, I just summarized some information based on us and the state. So towards the left, we have the state has about 355,000 students. And again, this is all from DOE on their website at a cost of about $660.6 million in terms of what those students are getting in FEFP. On our end, as I said, we have the 39.6 million, and we have approximately 4,760 recipients. And remember, these are fluid because you can opt in at any point. There aren't timelines, and that's all done through scholarship organizations. One of them being Step Up for Students is one of the most common ones here. But I do want to just end with this in terms of this slide, just to give you a perspective. We represent, Hillsborough County's enrollment represents about 1.3% of the entire state's enrollment, okay, as of this year. However, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, 7.8%, I had it mixed up. We are about almost 8% of the entire state's enrollment, Hillsborough County School. However, as far as the 4,760 out of the 355,000, we represent only about 1.3%. So if you're looking at something in terms of, a glass half full at this point, a smaller percentage of our students compared to what we have are exercising to go into, whether it be Family Empowerment, Gardner, or McKay. Okay? So that's the update. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a page number that,
Yeah.
page 6? Okay,
Yeah, there's a slide number.
thank you.
Oh, is that page 5?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Are you all set? Okay, so we'll probably, Ms. Gray, I think we had talked about for the format, we're just going to roll through the PowerPoint, and then we'll have questions at the end. So we'll go ahead and move on. And we're going to have staff kind of rotate in and out, so I know Matt's going to hop off, but then he'll be available for the Q&A portion because we'll have other staff coming up. So our next one is Senate Bill 1028. This bill is titled Education, but it was originally for the majority of session titled Charter Schools. It was a charter school bill, and just a few days before sine die, before the end of session, a few last minute provisions were added as well as retitling the bill. And the three pieces we're going to highlight of 1028 are charter schools, the student retention piece, and the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. So this bill was signed into law on June 1 and is effective July 1, unless otherwise noted. So I'm going to toss it to Chincy on the charter schools.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, this 1028 had a lot of language for charter schools, pertaining to charter schools. For the sake of time, I selected the pieces that are the most impactful to the district, but I have information on all the other language if anyone wants it. But let's start with the major pieces. This bill opens the door for an alternate authorizers or more than one. And this is a major change in the authorizing landscape School districts have always been the sole authorizer in the state of Florida, but now this law allows for state university and state college systems to be authorizer and have the same responsibilities and oversight duties as the district. So these entities will be able to accept new charter school applications beginning July 1st. They obviously will need a charter office like the district does to do that. I'm not quite sure who will be interested in it. But basically, the fiscal impact for us will be the loss of administrative fees if they choose the alternate authorizer path. The existing charter schools that are in our portfolio currently must wait until their contract expires in order to switch authorizers if they wish to do that. So that's an important thing to remember when contract renewals come our way and they choose to terminate our agreement and go with a state university or college system, they may do that at that time. And again, that would be the potential loss of administrative fees on our part. The next one, the DOE will develop a performance framework to evaluate the school districts as an authorizer. And they will hone in basically in our policies and practices, the academic and finances of charter schools in our portfolio, and we'll take a look at the history of approvals and closures of charter schools. So basically, they will develop a report card for school districts on how they oversee, authorize, and monitor charter schools. And then they will publish this information on the DOE website. Next one. All right, this bill allows charter school applications to be submitted at any given time and opened when the applicant wishes to. Got it? I'm sorry. All right, on slide 12, okay. This is probably the most disruptive as far as procedural practices goes. As it stands today, we ask for letters of intent in January and accept charter applications on February 1st. This timeline allows our office, our charter office, to organize and put together a well thought out review team composed of other departments and specific expert staff based on the focus of the application we are to review. I'll give you an example. If we know from the letter of intent that an application will be focused on STEM, we reach out to Larry Plank's office and we ask him for one of his staff members to be on the review team, if not himself. And this year, based on previous legislation, we accepted applications on February 1st that, if approved, will be eligible to open next year in 2022-2023. Based on this new revised language, charter applicants may apply any time of the year and open whenever they decide to open. For example, an applicant could submit an application in March with the intention of opening the following August. The lack of a timeline for submitting an application will place a huge burden on district staff, not just the charter office, but district staff in general, who will have only 90 days to gather as an expert review team, review carefully, submit documentation to this board for an approval or denial. And to keep in mind that the application process is an unfunded mandate, so the human capital hours lost would be the fiscal impact. 7, 8, where were, all right. Sorry, 560, yes. Language, this language pertains to denials of charter applications or any appeals. So if we must go to the Division of Administrative Hearings in Tallahassee for an appeal by a charter school or applicant, and the ruling is not in our favor, The district will have to pay attorney fees and costs to the other party, or the other way around if ruled in our favor. Additionally, if the district does not implement the decision of the District Court of Appeal, we would have to reduce the administrative fees of all our currently 52 charter schools to 1% until we comply with the ruling. So the fiscal impact will depend on the number of denials that are brought to the administrative hearings. All right, 1853. No, 808. That's out of order for some reason. 808. All right. The apparently subtle, and I included this because it pertains to attorney language. They changed the language, and it's subtle change of language from indicating to demonstrating. And I think this is significant as it places a greater onus on the district to prove with hard facts and samples that a school must be closed due to the health, safety, or welfare of students, instead of merely showing the need for closure. Fiscal impact, I couldn't think of anything, but basically it would be probably manpower in, making sure we have the documentation available for such a process. 1853. All right. A charter, this language opens the opportunity for ESC centers to be treated like high-performing charter schools and replicate their program if they wish. If a charter ESC center receives 2 consecutive ratings of maintaining or higher, it may replicate its educational program. So right now, we have 3 ESC centers in our portfolio. We have Pepin, who has earned maintaining for 2018 and 2019 and therefore would qualify, and Focus Academy, who has earned maintaining in 2018 and commendable in 2019. The impact is that a high-performing application has fewer statutory requirements compared to a regular application. And obviously, if they choose to go through this process as high-performing ESC centers, then there would be extra, potential for extra loss of FEFP. 1953, 1559. 1559? Yes. All right. Although the Schools of Hope operator is its own LEA, meaning, sorry, help me out, somebody. LEA stands for? Thank you. Local Education Agency must submit the following to the district. The FEFP the schools generate still comes through the district, and therefore the charter office will have to collect, examine, and evaluate their finances quarterly and annually, despite their not providing the district with any percentage of administrative fees. So, and again, this was this is an extra privilege for the Schools of Hope, because instead of each school providing us with quarterly financials, now the organization itself can just provide us with financials on a quarterly basis overall, including all of theirs. So we can't really pinpoint how each school is doing. And again, this is an unfunded mandate. 1953. All right, this bill allows the Schools of Hope to choose where they fingerprint their staff and to submit directly to the FDLE. Currently, all charter schools go through our district, so we can keep track of charter staff fingerprinting. So if we get a hit, we are notified, and we notify either their governing board or the principals about the hit. Currently, I'm in the communication with the Schools of Hope, Idea Public Schools, and they haven't set up a system yet, so they're choosing this year to go through our district for fingerprinting.
All right, that's it. Thank you, Jincia. So we're going to flip over now to the student retention piece, part of Senate Bill 1028, and Terry Connor's going to highlight that. This provision, student retention, was included in 2 different bills this session, and one of them kind of nulled itself out because it was in 1159, but the effective date was July 1, and so I'm going to toss it to Terry.
All right, good morning, everyone. So this allows parents in K-5 for academic reasons to retain their students. So that retention must be written request to the principal before June 30th. It requires disclosure to the parent that retention could impact their ability to play high school sports due to age. They may age out. It also allows a customized one-year education plan for the student in lieu of retention. And the parent does have the final decision regarding the retention. So districts will have to report all of the retention numbers to the DOE by the end of June of 22. So the impact there, obviously, the fiscal impact is indeterminate at this point, depending on the number of students that would actually be retained. But there is some impact for students. You know, in K2, if a student is retained and then is possibly retained again due to 3rd grade FSA scores, that could be a double retention in elementary school, which could have a tremendous impact for that student. And as well, just the SEL supports that will be required because students are overaged and, you know, maybe in a previous grade level class is a potential impact as well. So another potential impact is if the data is supporting the student to be promoted. You know, we've got teacher grades, teacher recommendations, and all the data supporting that, and a parent still decides that they want to retain their student, there could be some impact as well there. So that is the student retention.
Thank you. And Lannis Robinson, our Director of Athletics, is going to do a highlight on the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, also part of Senate Bill 1028. Thanks, Lannis.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. This is a very simple component. It was Section 12 of Senate Bill 1028, and it really was talking about the fairness of sports and women's sports in particular. Essentially, it was going to have a couple different requirements. The first thing is a sport would be designated per the gender, so male sports and female sports. The idea is over the last several years, we've had a transgender allowance that would impact sports, and this essentially is removing that from being in the consideration. So essentially what is happening with this bill is the student's sex is established by their birth certificate, and then they can participate in the sport as indicated on that birth certificate. There is a caveat. Boys can play on teams that are boys sports, and girls can play on teams that are girl sports. Boys can't play on teams that are girl sports, but girls can play on teams that are boy sports. And the rationale behind that is the physical development and difference. Having a student that may be physically more developed, born as a boy, maybe be identifying as something different at this point, but physically more developed than other participants in particular female sports. So the idea is to try to eliminate students that were born as a boy playing against girls in a team sport or individual sport for that matter.
All right, thanks, Lannis.
All right, no problem.
All right, and our folks will be available, of course, during the Q&A portion. We're just going to keep on moving. All right, so next we'll move into the budget.
Yes, I have the appropriation SB 2500 bill, and the legislator have increased this fiscal year from our student allocation from $7,756 to $7,795, but in our base allocation was increased by $53. And the state has decreased statewide from $149.1 million. The total impact on our district, Hillsborough County, is that we have, if this projection was based on 223,000 students, but our projected enrollment has decreased, is at 220,605 students, and the local has increased. So we had a net impact of the whole change. So even though we got an increase from the legislature change, the total state category funding has decreased by class size by $25 million. So the over impact to Hillsborough County, we lost 6.3 in revenue for this fiscal year for state FEFP funding. And attaches all the detailed information listing the categories, the increase and the decrease overall to our state funding. And as you can see on the page 23, the total state funding decreased by 19.6, the local increased by 13.3, giving us a total decrease of 6.3 million overall in our state operational funding. Okay, for the Florida retirement system, which begins legislation impact July 1st, 2021. If the overall state impact increased our rate from 10% to 10.87%, the total impact to Hillsborough County, that gives us our contribution increased by $9 million overall for this district. Any questions on that?
Okay, I think we'll flip up into our last slide, the additional bills of interest slide. So we have a few on here that Terry Connor, Tracy Brown, and John Newman are going to quickly just popcorn and highlight. So I'll toss it over to Terry if you want to do maybe 3, 545, and 1108?
Sure.
Okay.
So House Bill 3 is pretty exciting. It's the New Worlds Reading Initiative. It is it's an initiative to provide at-home literacy supports for our elementary students who are reading below grade level. The initiative will include giving a hard copy book that is delivered monthly to students at no cost. The DOE will designate a state university to be the administrator of the initiative. So eligible students are those who have a substantial reading deficiency and are reading below grade level on progress monitoring and statewide assessment data. Students will remain in the initiative until they're promoted out of 6th grade or if their parent opts them out. It does allow for students to actually select book topics and genres of interest at the start of each school year. House Bill 545, Sexual Health Education, requires that districts notify parents that they have the right to exempt their child from teaching reproductive health or any disease, including HIV and AIDS, through the submission of a written request. Districts will be required to post information about how parents can exempt themselves on the homepage of their district website. The homepage must also include a link of the students' parents' access to view instructional materials that is used in the reproductive health and disease curriculum. It also requires that boards, so this is implications for the board here, that we annually approve all instructional materials used to teach reproductive health and to provide a process for public review on those materials. House Bill 1108 is exciting that it requires every school district, including all of our alternative schools and DJJs, to offer either the SAT or the ACT to every 11th grader in the district free of charge. So that would be subject to appropriation for that purpose.
Right, and I think DOE has committed to 2 years of funding for that, and they're using federal funds for that.
Also included in 1108 is students who are enrolled, Ms. Davis mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation, students who are enrolled in ESOL for less than 2 years and have met all of their high school graduation requirements except for the ELA assessment requirement may be provided a waiver of sorts as long as they're able to demonstrate grade level expectations on formative assessments. So those would be internal assessments that we would provide evidence of satisfactory achievement, that they would be able to receive that waiver. All right.
All right, Tracy Brown is going to highlight House Bill 419, and then John Newman will be next, and that'll wrap us up on this
Good
slide.
morning. House Bill 419 is early learning and early grade success. This bill addresses a coordinated screening and assessment process for pre-K through 3rd grade, which will include a progress monitoring process, a system, which will begin in the year 2022 for the 22-23 school year. It also addresses VPK accountability, which requires VPK providers to participate in an annual program assessment, and that too will begin in the 22-23 school year. It modifies the VPK readiness rates to a performance metric that will be calculated beginning the same year, 22-23. Regarding governance of the Office of Early Learning, it will now be overseen by under the authority of the State Board of Education as a division in the office, in the Department of Education, which will be overseen by the Chancellor of Early Learning, fully accountable to the Commissioner of Education. It will address the Gold Seal accreditation for our private VPK providers. That's a designation that was formerly under the Department of Children and Families. It will now be under the Department of Education, as well as early learning coalitions will now have accountability associated with their work. It sets the number of coalitions from 31 to 30, as well as increases transparency and limits conflicts of interest for its board members. It also addresses school readiness program changes. And also, it addresses child care resource and referral. And those are overseen by the Office of Early Learning.
Thanks. And John, if you've got real quick on Senate Bill 590, school safety. It covers some school safety measures as well as mental health. But John Newman will highlight that for us. Thank you.
Good morning. Senate Bill 590 covers primarily mental health updates and school safety recordings. Specifically, it really emphasizes the parents' right of notifications for Baker Acts, for the school's requirement to notify parents or family members of emergencies at the sites. It also addresses a health safety plan that it's a partnership between the Department of Health and the school district. They give you an enumerated list of services. To be quite honest with you, most of what we have in 590 already exists in the district. It's a matter of memorializing those processes to make sure that it's in line with the state statute. It discusses law enforcement in this region's already ability to use civil citations first before anything else if the student applies for that. And then it also requires mental health training for the safe school specialists and the officers that work our campuses that are part of behavioral threat assessments. So, and finally, there is a student identification card mandate that suicide hotline and resources will be placed on the student identification card by the start of the new school year. The biggest emphasis on 590 is the parent right and the notification when a student is involved in an involuntary examination. But like I previously stated, most of those processes in this bill, this district already has in place.
So that actually wraps up the legislative staff presentation of the workshop. And so we'll turn it over now for Q&A. And I think we did pretty good on time, I would say. We were well rehearsed. So hopefully that was pleasing to the board. We went right through it. So it was quick, but thank you, Ms. Gray.
Yes, you went quick, but there was not a whole lot of great news. So board members, we're going to go ahead and surround our workroom with the questions. And actually, Sheikh, I was just going to go ahead this direction, but we certainly can go that direction. So you'll be first. Oh, excuse me, Stacy will be first. And we're going to go ahead and through that round, and we'll see what kind of time, because we have comprehensive discipline next. So, all right. Dr. Hahn, are you ready for your question, or do you need a little bit more
No, I
thought
need some more time, so I'll pass to the next person. Thank you.
Okay. Member Washington?
Thank you. Wow, I tell you. Well, my first question I had, when we deny appeal for charter schools, are we paying, if we go to court, do we pay for every appeal we deny? Is that charged on us?
So under the new bill, if we deny a charter application and we're challenged and we get sued and we lose that, at that point we would be responsible for the attorney fees for the winning side.
For each one?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know about the cost of that would be? You have any idea?
I don't have an estimate. It would depend on how many you really deny. I mean, it could, excuse me, it could become very expensive because if you have, depending on how far the appeals go, if it goes to circuit court and then to the Supreme Court, it could end up being pretty expensive. But we could try to come up with an estimate for you, but I would think it would be very expensive.
Okay, so, okay, that answers that part of the question. So if we deny or appeal for a charter school, it goes through all those steps before the judge decides who is right and who is wrong or denied. Correct. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, so,
And we would have to base a denial on the criteria set forth in the statute. So if we do that, we'd be on solid ground. If we do it for some other reason, then we would be vulnerable to a challenge.
so I just want people to understand. So we need concrete evidence in order to
Correct.
deny
That's
a
correct.
charter school appeal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, that's all. Thank you, I appreciate that.
You know, I think, Mr. Porter, too, it would be wise to get a guesstimate so we have an idea, you know, some type of figure, because it's been done before. Excellent question, Member Washington. Member Vaughn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As usual, I have quite a few questions, so if you can make sure you pause my time in between. First, when it comes to the scholarship expansion, I just want to clarify for people who may not understand that these are actual taxpayer public school dollars that are now going towards private school tuition. This isn't some money from the state that magically is put aside. These are the dollars that would normally come to us, taxpayer dollars for public education, now going to private schools for people who make up to $100,000 a year.
Correct.
The question I had with that is we were quoted as, I didn't understand the $40 million we're expecting to lose our school district. Is that based on the people we have now enrolled in it that we're currently losing? Or is that in anticipation of what we would be expecting coming down the road? Pause my time.
Matt Romano, I believe that's the current numbers, but yeah.
That figure is based on students who have already exited the district. So they're using an estimate for the FEFP because it varies obviously in each individual student. And we have a hard count of how many students have exercised family empowerment scholarship because, as I said, 4 times a year we get a state file and we have to make sure that the students that the state is claiming are enrolled in a private school through family empowerment, that they're not, you know, enrolled with us. So we do catch errors. And again, that's one of the concerns we have is now it's 100%. That 5% was used in the district for our staff to be able to reconcile that. I mean, it helped offset some of that in terms of the time.
So that number could triple, double. Is there a cap on it?
There's a cap on the number of students that the state's put per year. It's approximately 22,000.
Statewide. Yeah.
And I know they raised it, but I have not heard of us reaching the cap statewide. I've never heard, you know, when I've talked to people from the scholarship funding organizations in terms of students being, or families being told that they were on a wait list. So.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So just to put that in context, for $40 million, if we had instructional staff making $60,000 a year, that's over 660 instructional staff members that we could be losing based on that $40 million. The next thing I wanted to ask is, since we were talking about 1028, the charter school one, we talked a lot about administration fees and whether we could lose those based on whether they go through a college or university. If they go through the college or university and they pay the administration fee, but does that leave us still provide the services that we provide to the charter schools without that administration fee?
No, if they choose to go with an alternate authorizer, that alternate authorizer is the LEA, the local education agency, and they will be responsible for authorizing and monitoring, so they will get the administrative
But providing
fee.
nurses or ESE support or the other things, they're all responsible for that?
That is correct.
Okay. And did this bill also lower the percentage in general overall from the 2% to the 1%, or did I misunderstand that?
No, I'm not, it doesn't clarify how much of administrative fee would go to the alternate authorizer, so I don't have that answer.
Okay, and then the next question I had was, there was the racial equity piece where essentially they said, whereas now charter schools have to look like racially and ethnically the neighborhoods that they're in, now they've expanded that to where they don't necessarily have to stay within those guidelines of the neighborhood, they just have to stay within the county. So to put it in context, a school in East Tampa would have to provide the racial and equity makeup of a school in Odessa. It really expands the guidelines to what the criteria has to look like. That's how I understood it. Is that correct?
That is correct, but they can go even beyond county. The alternate, are we talking about the alternate authorizer?
Yes.
Yes, they can go beyond the county lines and go to neighboring neighborhoods, for example, in Pasco or Pinellas or Polk.
Yeah, the law actually has where a university authorizer could sponsor a charter school anywhere in the state. A college would be restricted to their region, but region necessarily hasn't been defined.
And then the two other questions I had is I just wanted some clarity on the part-time instruction that charter schools can now offer. And then finally, what I see here is I know that previously charter schools could have a daycare, a private daycare that could allow those children access into their charter school so they wouldn't have to go through the lottery system. From what I'm reading here, this expands it so that charter schools can have partnerships with any private daycare. It doesn't have to be one of their own, and that guarantees them a spot in the charter school. And also that developers, if there's a community that a child lives in where the developer has contributed to the charter school's capital outlay, those students also can automatically go into the charter school by bypassing the lottery system. So it seems to me that it's really bypassing that kind of lottery system of keeping equity within it and allowing more privatization to go into our charter schools. Am I understanding that correctly?
I guess they may provide preferences in the lottery system to the daycare that they currently have on campus. I am not quite sure about the neighborhood daycares. Yeah.
Or not neighborhood, but any private daycare.
Any private,
so it could be
yeah.
anyone that they want to partner with.
I will look into that.
Okay, and then just the last one was I don't really understand the part-time virtual instruction between charter schools now, so I don't know if we have clarification on that. Is that something we can offer, or?
For the
1020
okay,
or 128?
Yeah. So currently we do have one virtual charter school that provides full-time instruction. They could potentially provide part-time instruction, just kind of like FLBS and HBS does to students. At this point, they're choosing not to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And those are very great points. And Member Vaughn, we're reminded, and I know that Ms. Davis said that we're still doing their technical assistant papers, so these bills are still being developed. So some of those questions we can't answer just yet, right? So at any rate, all right, Member.
If you may I just
sorry.
speak briefly? I just wanted to respond quickly to Member Washington about the cost of litigation. As you know, Hillsborough County has not had a history of really denying charter schools, so we haven't been involved in a lot of litigation. But Mr. Gibson just did some quick research, and apparently a Palm Beach County school district was ordered to pay a charter school $75,000 after a loss in 2019. So that would be a rough estimate per school. Again, we haven't had a history here in Hillsborough, but based on Mr. Gibson's research in Palm Beach, that's sort of a ballpark estimate.
Definitely an important consideration. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Member Member Combs.
Thank you. I think that's a perfect timing because I think it's really important when you're talking about the cost of litigation. It's really important that we don't continue to approve charters because of the fear of litigation, because that's why many districts across the area, even in Pinellas, Volusia County, they don't have the number of charter schools because they have fought against the charter schools. So when you look at litigation, if we have to spend money on litigation, if we stop 5 or 6 charters from coming here, we're saving the district millions and millions of dollars. So I think it's important that when we start talking about, as a board, when we talk about the fear of litigation, and that's why we're going to approve charters that are, when you look at a lot of data that we'll be discussing this afternoon and research that I'll bring to you, I think we need to stop being intimidated and fearful of denying charters just because of litigation. And I think that's why we have 55 charter schools in Hillsborough County, and we continue to have them because of that idea. I think $75,000 compared to millions of dollars outweighs it by far. So I wanted to make that comment. In addition to that, when we talk about the notification of the McKay scholarships, I wanted to find out how are we supposed to notify it? Does it have to be by robocall or which way should those notifications come out?
So, yeah, Matt's going to come up here to talk because he's been doing that, but I believe it doesn't necessarily specify, it doesn't say by text, by U.S. mail or anything. It just says a notification is required. And Matt, you can explain what we've been doing in the past.
And in the past, so McKay and Gardner has been operated through the ESE department. In school choice, we've taken the responsibility for family empowerment. For the family empowerment, we have done the notification by phone, and we do it usually in the evening. And again, as I stated previously, we do comply with statute, and we only notify the families that we're required to notify. And in this case, for family empowerment, it's the students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. So we received that list from Student Nutrition. As for the McKay, I believe they notify in the spring, or have, because their timelines may have been different, but now everything is going to be streamlined. And they have done it in the past by letter, but it doesn't specify how you notify. You can do it by email, you can do it by text. You can do it multiple ways, but in both cases, we just choose one way to do that. Now, in opposition for school choice and Magnet, when we notify that we're open for an application period or results are available, we notify 3 ways: phone call, email, and a text.
Okay, and I think that's something that maybe we need to continue to look at and make sure to see how we're going to contact them. And how often? It's just once a year?
Once a year.
So the new law now requires that by January 1st, for students who are eligible under McKay, Gardner, or the Family Empowerment Income, that they have to be notified. And we will do that again towards January 1st. So in the past, for Family Empowerment, it was April 1st, and we've done that every year, including last year with the pandemic.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I had a question for you, Ms. DeLange. On SB 1028 with the Education, the Schools of Hope, are you saying now they have to submit just annually their financial statements?
No, they get audited yearly, like all the other charter schools. However, the financials, a regular charter school provides us with monthly financials, a high-performing quarterly as well. But the difference with this bill is that the Schools of Hope would have to provide us with one quarterly financial that includes all their schools. And currently, in August, we will have 2 operating, 2 schools. So every quarter, we will receive a financial, thank you, financials that encompass both schools combined and not separate.
Okay, and the Schools of Hope, the Idea Public Schools that are opening, the 2 schools this year that we did not approve, wasn't there information 2 weeks ago in the newspaper that the CEO and the CFO they were both let go due to financial inappropriate funding? It was all over the national news.
That was in the news.
Okay, I just wanted to make aware of, the voters and people need to know that we have to take these 2 schools, and if they look that up, you will see that recently the CEO and CFO were fired 2 weeks ago, as well as 2 years ago, the CEO was fired and paid out $900,000. So I think people need to be made aware of what we are dealing with here in Hillsborough County.
Oh, thank you, Member Combs. And in perspective to what Mr. Porter said, 75,000 for illegal. On the face of approximately estimated $254 million per year that we lose from the FTE for charter schools. So that will put it in perspective, write it down, and you can do a ratio. Member Perez?
Thank you. On page 8, you say potential loss of administrative fees. Can you give us like an idea of what that looks like?
All charter schools that are not high performing, we retain 5% of their FEFP. So we pay them. The funds come from the state. We're a through basically for their funds, and we retain 5% of those funds to cover the cost of authorizing and not authorizing, but monitoring our duties and responsibilities by statute. We have 8 high-performing schools. Because they're deemed high-performing, they're reduced to 2%. So we retain 2% of that. I don't think I have numbers right now, but we're looking at, I believe, $3 million every year of administrative fees.
And if let's say, for instance, the schools go to the universities, or if the schools fold or go into bankruptcy, who would be responsible at that point who would be the responsible party, the overseer, or the entity who would be the one having the charter school or keeping the charter school accountable if they fall below grade level or they become low performing?
The alternate authorizer, so it would be a state university or state college. They would be responsible to monitor all those facets of the statute. The only difference that I found in the 1028, and as Member Gray says, we don't have a technical assistant paper yet, but the only difference that I found is that their FEFP, their way of calculating their FEFP and administrative fees is going to be different than ours, and I'm not quite sure why it's going to be different and what it will look like. And that question, I have posed that question to the DOE for more information.
How many schools approximately, how many charter schools, since this process started, have closed down here in Hillsborough County?
I think we have a document that has that information. Do you want to just follow up after? And
Yes, I
send that
can
out?
follow up.
So it's been several.
Oh, yes, yeah, we've
Okay.
closed schools before. Most recently, it was Community Charter School just a couple of years ago, yes.
Okay. And it's been due to low performing or?
Finances, but if, by statute, if they receive 2 Fs in a row, we close them, and that's by statute, so that's an easy closure. The most common, we closed Florida Virtual Academy about 5 years ago, and that was for several reasons, and it was for their board dwindled down to 1, maybe 2 people off and on, so they didn't have a governing board. Their finances, usually their finance, if they're in a detrimental financial situation, we have to, it's not immediate, we have to document, we have to provide them with a way of curing their finances. So even financially, there is a way for the school to improve. We have to give them due process and give them time. But usually it's finances and academics. Those are the 2 main reasons.
I just want that out for the public to understand.
Absolutely.
That there's been some closures here in Hillsborough
Yes.
County. And thank you for that information. My next question is on the Fairness in Women's Sports Act.
It's coming.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is important because, June is LGBT month. And, for this bill to be put in place, it's I have an issue with this. So what happens to our students here in Hillsborough County who are currently transitioning?
According to this bill, they would have to play the sport according to what their birth certificate states.
What if their birth certificate is being changed?
I don't know the answer to that. We're waiting on the technical assistance papers that will probably address that as well.
Okay, because in their transitioning, they have their support of their families, and they would have the support of Hillsborough County, because our students here in Hillsborough County should be totally supported, no matter where and who they are. So in their transitioning, that is an important question.
I would say I'll take the lead of whatever the district decides.
So currently, the language in the statute says, this is what the language says right now. And again, as Lana said, we don't have any further guidance at this point, but the straight language of the order says, for purposes of this section, a statement of a student's biological sex on the student's official birth certificate is considered to have correctly stated the student's biological sex at birth if the statement was filed at or near the time of the student's birth. So that would lead me to believe that even if they eventually changed it, they would still go back to the original birth certificate. But we don't have any further guidance at this point from the department, and it hasn't been litigated yet, so the courts haven't given us any guidance. But I would read this to mean that even if they are transitioning and somehow they had a legal action to change the birth certificate, the schools would still have to look at the original birth certificate, but that's to be decided.
If you could get back with me on that?
And we'll continue to, we'll continue to look and work with the Barr High School Association as well.
Thank you, Linus. Thank you, Member Perez. And in regards to the school closings, we also have 2 withdrawals and 2 denials, which we haven't had before in many, many years. So that is occurring as we speak. Good morning, Member Snively. You're next.
Ooh, wow, that's loud. The only things I had to say first were thank you to Ms. Davis. I think you did a great job keeping us informed throughout the session prior to, a lot of preparation, a lot of communication, a lot of opportunity for us to have open dialogue with our own representatives and members of the legislature and our delegation. So thank you for all the hard work. Very thorough and impressive amount of work that you have succeeded in presenting to the board and the school district. The only other issue I wanted to address was just a comment from Ms. Combs a little earlier about the fear of litigation, and I would like to say that I don't, in my opinion, as a board member for several years, it is not my opinion that the board was ever fearful of litigation, and therefore approval ratings for charter schools were higher. It was really because the charter school applications were vetted very thoroughly through the charter school office, and there was never substantive information or evidence to deny a charter school application. And so perhaps we look at the process in the charter school office if board members are not pleased with the amount of charter schools that are coming to the board for approval, but it certainly, when they got to the board, from what my recollection has been over time during board meetings, is that there was no fear of litigation for a reason to approve charter school applications. It was simply because they had been vetted thoroughly and there was no reason to deny them and take the risk, the financial risk of going to court and paying court costs just because of principle. Because of a charter school, we may not, a board member may not have agreed. So I think board members have voted based on the information and their beliefs every time those applications came to a board meeting. We have had board members that voted against charter school applications in the past. However, all of the board applications have been approved by the board just because of the thorough vetting of those applications through the charter school office and not having a reason to deny them. But as Ms. Gray mentioned earlier, you'll see that for the first time since I've been a board member, we have more transparency through the process on the agenda today as far as having charter schools that are being recommended for denial, because that's something that usually happened in the charter school office previous to coming to school board meetings. And so now we'll actually get to see those applications and have a better, more transparent record of charter schools that are not being approved necessarily. And if we have, we could probably go back for several years and tally up the charter school applications that were denied by the charter school office before they even came to the board. I'd be curious to see how many applications we have turned away or denied in the past 8-10 years, because I think you would be surprised how many never made it to the board for approval. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. And we do have those numbers, and I'll be happy to give you that slide. Our processes in the charter office are very thorough. Again, their review team is always made, whether it's contract renewal or application process, made up of expert staff in the district. Our processes are really thorough, I have to advocate for those process because the staff puts in a lot of hours, and everything that we bring to the superintendent is carefully vetted and carefully discussed. And one step that we do prior to that is call the applicant, in this case, and say and that is by statute, we have to let them know whether we're going to recommend denial or approval. And at that point, they have the choice to withdraw. So many choose to withdraw. In tonight's case, 2 chose not to withdraw. So we just move forward with the denial.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I really don't believe that we would be fearful of litigation expenses as much as we just need to concentrate on making sure that we are very transparent about the applications that come through so that the public can see that we don't rubber stamp the charter school applications when they come to the board. And I think any board member would be comfortable with denying an application if there was evidence to deny that application without fear of litigation. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that and hope that we can continue to be transparent about the process and how many applications are coming in and how many are getting approved and denied so the public can see that we don't, like I mentioned, we just don't rubber stamp charter school applications that come through. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Snively. Dr. Hahn? Member Hahn?
Thank you. Good morning. And I want to start off also thanking Kristen for this wonderful presentation this morning.
Teamwork.
You're new to this role in the last year and a half, and you've really done a wonderful job. And always felt very well informed during the process, during session, and never before have we had such a comprehensive binder. I love binders. That's the teacher in me. I think we all love binders. Yes. But I appreciate that, and thank you to your staff too who helped. One, obviously we're having a really good conversation about charters, and given tonight's agenda, it's timely, obviously, as many have said. I appreciate Member Combs' passion around charters and school choice. You clearly do your homework around this issue. I appreciate that. And I appreciate Member Snively's overview historically of how the board has managed charters when they come to the board. It's a struggle. I think a lot of us, all of us, want the very best high-quality schools operating in this district. I know for me, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but there are times I do feel handcuffed by the legislature around my decision-making when it comes to charters. And it's obviously, after the presentation this morning, it's becoming more and more difficult to make the best decisions as a school board for our district. And so when we talk about denying applications, in the past, I've always been very concerned about the cost of that, because especially now, we're in a very financially challenging situation, and we've all said from the dais, every dollar, every penny counts. So those $75,000 isn't a lot compared to 200, right? No, $75,000 for the cost of litigation doesn't seem like a lot compared to what we're losing, but it is significant given our challenges. I guess, when I approach this, I talk to our legal team and ask about state statute. And if I deny this application, can I tie it back to a state statute? Because unfortunately, the state statutes lean more toward the charters. So it's very difficult to deny and win unless you can tie it to a state statute. And if you don't do that, if you can't do that, then you're going into it based on maybe to show your muscle or principle. And $75,000 is a lot if you can't go into it knowing you can tie it to a state statute and at least have a fair opportunity to perhaps win the litigation. So that's concerning to me. I'd like to know that, you know, as a board, if we're really moving in the direction of wanting to deny charters that are coming to us, we need to be engaging in conversations with our legal team to be able to legitimately tie it to a state statute. Otherwise, if we can't do that and we know we're going into it to lose, we're not being fiscally responsible. $75,000, $20,000, $13,000, $2 million, whatever the amount is, it's a teacher's salary. So I hope those conversations are happening individually if that's the route you're going in. Also, I just want to clarify some things on the administration fees and lawsuits. If we challenge and go into a lawsuit and we lose, we pay our fee, which could be $75,000, $100,000, we just don't know. That's a guesstimate. We pay the charter school's legal fee, and we lose a percentage on every single charter we administer. Is that correct? Am I understanding the law now right? Because I'm trying to get a little clarity on it.
Yeah, you're accurate. So, for instance, with Palm Beach, the district had to pay out $75,000 to the charter school.
Okay.
That doesn't take into account what their own legal fees were. So you might assume that's another $20,000, $30,000 to $40,000. And then if we lose, or the district loses, and we decide not to come into compliance, that's when the penalty comes in and it gets down to reduced to 1%.
When you say come into compliance, you mean allow them to operate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be the penalty if we didn't do that.
Under the new law or the old law?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want some clarity around that because I think the full financial picture is important, especially if you're denying more than one at a time and you're now going into multiple lawsuits. And I understand the FTE loss. I mean, I do. It's huge. But again, going into a lawsuit without doing our due diligence with our legal team to make sure that these are tied to state statutes and we have at least a fighting chance. If we're not doing that and we're just denying it on principle, I don't believe it's fiscally responsible. I do believe we need to work more on the accountability piece and policy around accountability in this district. And I think, that will at least allow us to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're operating high-quality programs in our district. So, I just want us to understand the financial implications. And I think there is a path to deny charters if you closely look at the state statutes. But if there's not, to go down that path, it can be, a little reckless financially. So those are my concerns. I agree with Member Snively. We shouldn't be afraid to challenge, and Member Combs, we shouldn't be afraid to challenge charter school applications or charter school, at any stage of the application. But we need to be very strategic on how we do that to make sure that, we are making considerations that don't have detrimental financial impact. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Very well said. I'll just have a comment here, and I think we have one more question from Member Washington and Member Vaughn. I think just listening to everyone, and Member Snively knows the history of me denying charter schools, mostly because it was not representative of the diversity that I felt was necessary. And I know that you and I, we've worked together on a lot of things, but when we don't have the economic advantage, the disadvantaged folks, and then the ELL not being represented, and the free and reduced lunches, and the gifted population, and when there's no transportation, it does occur that we have a segregation of our students just by default, right? So I think in the future we will see a definite segregation. There's no question. What I think for the board, and I'm listening very closely to Member Hahn, I think this board, beings that we have a very, let's say, not diverse opinions, I think a lot of us agree on many things. We need to have a strategic, using your word, school choice meeting. And the reason I say that is because if, in fact, the approximate value of 252 million of FTEs being lost with the additional 9 schools and in essence, with the 2 denials and 2 withdrawals, if 252 or 250 million per year is being lost, let that saturate, and we have a public school district to run, and in that we have already school choice being, it's the magnet. It's the IB, it's the STEM schools. We have a great, and Matt Romano's in charge, a great venue already of school choice. And in addition, we have charter schools, excellent charter schools. Pepin, I mean, they take care of the ESE, and even Patel, because I know that they, you know, his heart is in it, and he does a lot for all the disadvantaged kids. And also, we have now the birth of scholarship schools, private schools. So to your point, we do need, as a board, to make an evaluatory tool, and to actually, Member Combs way back, we need to be in charge of, you know, these type of schools. What kind of credentials do we want to see these schools be formed? Or should we just say, oh, we don't want anything to do with it, let them just be formed, and you know, let every school have a different evaluatory tool. I'd like for us to be proactive, have a workshop, and keep in mind this is what's going to go on. We have right now Romaneer development, which affects Stewart and Just Elementary, are having in there, and this is the city of Tampa, many of the developers are now having a school inside their development, and that happens to be right downtown. They are planning to absolutely consider taking away from Just and Stewart. Do we know about it? No, Mr. Farkas has no clue. The problem is land developers also are forming, just like in Pasco County, and Superintendent Browning and I talked, they're actually forming their developments, which is really makes sense with Publix, right? Well, they're putting schools in there. Do we even have a handle on that yet? No. So what are we going to do? Sit back and wait for all this to happen? And thank you, Dr. DeLange, you did an excellent job. And you're very, very well spoken, by the way. And Kristen, you're Johnny on the spot, or Kristen on the spot. But the point is, we have to be on the spot. We have the minds in this board right now to not only be proactive and strategic, but we need to plan. Superintendent Davis, where are we as a district and as a board? How do we fit in? How do we fit in? Do we just be on the sidelines and say goodbye, public schools? I know we have to go to Tallahassee, and by the way, we will. And we need to do that over and over. We need to tell the public they need to go ahead and get themselves up there. But as a board, 7th largest district in the county, can't we be proactive and start looking at what's happening and say, hey man, this is how we feel, these are some developmental tools that we feel need to be done, and get to the bills, to the Florida legislative folks, our wonderful delegation, and start sharing with them and have them be thought partners with us. Okay, this is the reality, we got it. Talk to Corcoran, okay, you're telling us what we have to do, we got it. But why don't we as a board start becoming more united in dealing with the realities versus waiting for it to happen? I think I'm going to conclude with that. I probably will request a workshop regarding that tonight. Just kind of wanted you to think about it. And I don't think any of us mind having that. I'll try to formalize it, but I'd like to have your thoughts on what you'd like to see in that type of workshop. And that's why I wanted to share right now. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton. Member Washington, and then Member Vaughn, and then we're going to get into the behavior management.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good? Okay, good. First of all, Kristen, thank you, because you always do a great job. And I want to thank you, Dr. Delane, and all the presenters are doing a great job. In fact, at the School Board Association conference, we gave her a standing ovation when they called her name. And I think she was embarrassed a little bit, but, you know, that's okay. You did a great job. So we did have fun. But one of the things I want to find out, whenever we deny a contract renewal, when we deny the contract, say if the board say, no, we don't want to have that contract with this particular school, when do and the school say, well, we're going to litigation, when do the school close? Do they go through the litigation before they close?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, okay. So during the litigation, school is still going on? Oh, okay. Okay, because I had a question about that. Someone asked me about do they close at that period of time. So that's the question I needed to know. So they go through the litigation before?
Yeah, we would have to extend the existing contract instead of renewing it,
Okay.
so that we can send a 90-day letter of termination. During that 90 days, they have the right to appeal. And then, of course, we have to prepare and demonstrate, instead of indicating, that the school, we have enough information to close the school.
Oh, okay. So, but during that period of time when it's going through, they're still open, though?
That is correct.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Quickly, I just wanted to update when we were talking about the percentage of free and reduced lunch who will get a call or a notification of the scholarship, that we are at 60%. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. 60% of our district. So those are people who will be notified of this scholarship opportunity. But the questions I had really quickly were, number one, at the FSBA conference, I was talking with a lot of other counties, and they said that there is a very low percentage, if we deny a charter school, that they go to litigation. So I'm wondering if we can get some stats. I think we're having a conversation here under the assumption that as soon as it's denied, every single charter school and their applicants are going to go to litigation. So I'd like to get some statistics on how many, charter schools actually go to litigation once they've been denied. Secondly, we're talking about, once the law has been passed now, that if we lost that litigation, we would have to pay the court costs of the charter school. That goes into effect as of July. So let's take example, if we have some charter schools we're going to be talking about tonight. If we deny those, let's say tonight, would that July date supersede, because we're denying them before July, statute-wise, would we still have to pay those fees, or because we did the denial, where does that fall on the timeline of things?
So the ones on the agenda tonight would still fall under the existing law. So the new law doesn't go into effect, as you said, till July 1st. So but there are still penalties that attach, and there are still things that we'd have to do.
But from what we know, we wouldn't have to pay their fees if we lost.
We still have to pay. I could give you an update on what this current statute is, but it's not the one that goes into effect on July 1st.
Thank you for that clarification. And then my one last question would be, we're kind of talking about safeguarding and having a conversation going forward about approval of charter schools, but now that they're going to be able to be approved by colleges or universities, I'm just wondering if we're expecting the sheer amount of applications to come before us. Are there any advantages between bringing an application to a local school board versus going to a state or university? Or, what are we anticipating as far as the upcoming applications? Are we anticipating they're still going to come through the district? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Through the chair, it's,
Go ahead.
for us, it's too fresh. We know that there's relationships that have been built with school districts, so some will continue to do if they have a high approval rating. We do know that some that potentially are denied will potentially look at local colleges for a different avenue, a different set of lens, or transition into different universities that they may have independent relationships with. This is openly an unfortunate bill that has been passed for school districts. It really takes the onus from a local perspective for us to review, hold accountability, and transition it's out to to other districts or universities in colleges or universities throughout the state. We'll continue to monitor it as we continue to meet with the superintendents associations. We'll continue to identify how many charter schools are branching outside of their school districts, and what that approval and denial process looks like as well. But I think it's really fresh from us. But I do believe you could see that everyone that we deny, that will potentially go to a college or a university. And the biggest thing they'll have to do is that they have to be able to set up a system in place, which they do, my understanding, they do not have. Some universities may offer charter schools for businesses, for their individuals that work within their universities. I don't know of many. I know there's there's three of them, one in Palm Beach, one in Broward, and there's another one that's throughout the state. But overarchingly, we'll have to see how it goes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. It would seem that we have three more questions. Member Nadia Combs, Member Stacy Hahn, and Member Melissa Snively. Member Combs.
I just wanted to say a couple things because I think it's really important to remember that I truly do believe in school choice. And the reason that I ran for a school board is because I love children and I love students. And often we see that some of these charters, when these students are going into some of these charters that are mismanaged, or there's money to be made from real estate, or there's money to be made and not the whole FTE, the idea that we are spending less than $8,000 per child to educate them, and the idea that you see these large companies making millions of dollars from real estate, millions of dollars from, CEO and CFO being funded, and there's no consequence to that. That is the biggest issue. So I think people really, for me, it's an idea of for people to get information, for knowledge, for our taxpayers to learn about what these charters are doing to our children. Personally, I've met many students who've gone to charters and have come back who are behind when they enter the public school. And that destroys a child's life. And I think it's really important. We keep talking about litigation, we keep talking about this, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what is the best thing for the child. And when we look at our public schools, and Member Snively, I know we talked about that, you approved charters, but the problem was before Ms. DeLange came, Dr. DeLange came, often these charters sat down, were met, we ended up giving them time to resubmit, sit down, work with them. We were known as one of the easiest districts to be approved because the amount of time and work that our charter school did such a great job approving some of these charters that are now closed, that have now impacted kids negatively. So I think it's really important that we have the big conversation about what is this about? Is it about money or is it about making a difference in children's lives? And we know for public education, with the $8,000, we put every penny back into the schools. And as I have fought very, very much for the top level, how top level we are here at the public schools, I am fighting that hard for charter schools that are not impacting kids properly, that people are making profit in nonprofit organizations. And this needs to be discussed in our community and in our country.
Thank you, Member Combs. Well said. Member Hahn, and then Member Snively. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, I've talked about this at a few board meetings now and workshops, and just like Member Combs, we all run because we care about kids and students, and I think that dual efforts have to be made as we're having these conversations about charters and our action steps that we want to take. But dual efforts need to be made when we talk about school choice around our 39 failing schools. And it's great if, kids have choices, but we need to be providing really high quality choices across the board. So unfortunately, it makes it easy for parents to leave just if we're not providing them with a high quality experience. And so my concern is around that. Superintendent Davis sent us an email yesterday with the FSA scores. I hope we all take a look at those carefully because I'm concerned. So when we're having this discussion around school choice and we look at those FSA scores, we're probably going to lose more students. And that's, that's on us. We need to be making sure that we're investing in programs that support all the students that exist in our district, that, kids who are living in certain neighborhoods have the same access as other kids to programs that can help them excel. But we have to have these dual efforts and lift up our own schools. So I understand that efforts want to be made on the charter side, and I think Ms. Combs, is right. We do need to really carefully look at the types of schools that we're allowing to operate in our district, but on the same token, we need to look at the schools we are operating, that we have 100% control over, because we have, compared to districts our size in the state, way more failing schools than any other large district in the state. I also think an opportunity, when Member Vaughn talked about the preschools that the charters were partnering with, I think the opportunity to partner with VPK private programs is a good area to try and recruit students into our K-8 or K-5 schools. I'd like to see more of that. I think those relationships would help us attract students into our schools versus the charters. That's another way that we can, maybe give them a good run for their money. So I think there's, and just having our pulse on what's developing out there in the community. But I think there's opportunities to improve our efforts to become even more competitive that will help us as well. So I just would like to highlight those dual efforts really need to take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn, and thank you for giving solution-based, choices, because that's what I would like for us to get into sooner than later, getting into solutions. Thank you. Member Snively?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Hahn, because many of the issues you just mentioned, I concur with, that we have to focus on our failing schools, and we are looking all the time over here at our charter schools and focusing so much energy on how not to increase charter schools in our district that we're not even paying attention to our own schools in our own backyard. And so we have to be very thoughtful, I think, moving forward on how we can manage both, because I think we should, as a board, and I look forward to the workshop that you request this evening, Member Gray. I think as a board, we should probably come together and figure out what we do agree on when it comes to charter schools, because I think that you'll find that there are probably some similar concerns that we have that we could vet. I think we agree that school choice is important. I think that we also agree that we have to be competitive as public schools, and I think that we also agree that there's an unfair playing field that is with charter schools and public schools, and we have to work very diligently with our legislators to make them aware of the inequities of the playing field that we're on, right? Because there are some issues that make it easier for charter schools to operate with less expenditure, and that's unfair to public education. But a lot of times, even legislators aren't aware of those. They are not, until we bring it to their attention. And so we need to continue having that dialogue and having those conversations. And I agree, Member Combs, you are correct in the comments that you were talking about as far as previous charter school operations and processes being very helpful. I think that our school district is probably has been more helpful than other school districts have in assisting charter schools into getting to the point where their applications can be approved. And so that's why I mentioned earlier about taking a look at the process and the operation to see how we differ from the other school districts that you may have mentioned earlier. Maybe that's what we take a harder look at. So, but I would also like to see, if possible, what the current demographics are in our charter schools. Do we have, or can we acquire that information to see what diversity is out there? Because I think that there's a concern moving forward about making sure that we're capturing a diverse student population within our charter schools as well. We certainly don't want it to be a segregating environment moving forward. But I do think that there are a lot of minority and economically diverse families that are served by our charter schools as well. But I'd like to see that if we have that information to see what they represent as far as demographics go. And then I did have one quick question. When it comes to denying an application, if we were to deny a charter school application, and would they be able to go to an alternate sponsor like a university and apply there, or would they be once we deny them, would that be the end of?
After July 1st, they would have the option of appealing our decision through the Department of Education and ultimately the courts, or going through an alternative sponsor after July 1st.
So my question would be, as far as liability goes, if we denied an application and then they went to an alternate sponsor who also denied their application, are both of those entities liable, or could they come back to us?
Potentially. I think it's unknown at this point because the law is new and hasn't gone into effect yet, but that's a potential outcome, absolutely.
Just curious about how that would look, because, that would, if there was less liability for our school district, then perhaps that would be more conducive to denying a charter school application.
Well, I think it's important at this point for me to say the liability is not something, and litigation is not something the district has ever really feared. That's not really the right way to couch this. A couple things are really important for everyone to understand, board members and the public. The Florida legislature and the Florida statutes are very charter friendly. In every session they become more charter friendly. That's just a fact. And it just makes it more difficult for local decision makers to deny charter applications. I think Dr. Hahn made a very good point that if you tie a denial to a statutory criteria, we can withstand a challenge very easily. What's happened over the past, many years in Hillsborough County prior to Superintendent Davis coming on board, the administration, not so much the board, but the previous superintendents have made a decision to not put the board in a position of having to deny applications. So to that end, the staff, the charter office worked very diligently with applicants to weed out those applications that were never going to get approved. That was a choice made by the administration, but what it did was result in applications not coming to the board that were not ready to be approved, as you said, Ms. Snively. That was a matter of just decision-making and leadership, and it was completely valid. And what it did was put the district and the board in a position of not having to grapple with whether to deny or not. Once it came to you, it checked all the boxes. The Superintendent Davis is apparently decided to go down a different direction, and you're bringing denials to the board. And that's probably one of the first times in the last 8 years that I've seen an actual recommendation for denial coming to the board. That's a way of work that is completely valid as well. But the public needs to understand we're never worried about defending a decision of the board, ever. But it is important that if you do make a decision that you tie it to a criteria that is based on the statute so that we are able to defend you. But we'll support and defend any decision that you make. But that's sort of the guidance that we have to give you is here's what the statute says. If you want to deny it, it's better to tie it to one of these criteria. If you decide to do otherwise, we'll do our best to defend you. To Ms. Vaughn's point, I don't anticipate there would be an onslaught of litigation, but there is a risk that when you do that, you do end up having to pay if we're not successful. So that's just something an overall discussion point that I think is important. And if we do have a workshop, I think we can do a deeper dive into some of these comments and answer some of the questions that you all have about it.
I appreciate your response, Mr. Porter, and I also agree. And I think that, again, moving forward, if we can find the things that we agree on as a board, I think we could probably have some great strategic conversation. But I do think that, the statutes, I think Member Hahn mentioned, we feel handcuffed a lot of times by the statutes, but I also think that that charter schools are not going to go away, and we're going to have to figure out ways to work with them and sometimes around them, but also figure out what's going to be best for our school district and continue to help our legislature understand the challenges as they continue to make it easier and easier for charter schools to operate, how challenging that is for public education to compete with that. And from a business standpoint, when you've got two businesses that are operating and they're trying to achieve the same success, but yet they play with different set of rules, I think that's very unfair, and that's what we have here. We have two entities who are trying to achieve success for our students academically, but one entity has one set of rules, one entity has a different set of rules. That is not fair. Thank you.
And truly, Member Snively and this entire group, when there's two different gods, so to speak, to prey upon, one certainly will have a deficit when it comes to if the Florida legislative prefers one business model versus the public school business model. But I think what's going to also unite and bring everyone together is the taxpayers, because in the final analysis, our taxpayers, our constituents, will choose what school they want their children to go to. And, as we see the continual flow, be it right or wrong, but the reality is there is a flow of more private schools coming due to the scholarship abilities and the monies, and there will be more charter schools. And hopefully there'll be more public schools and their dynamics, but the public, the constituents, will very soon develop their own evaluatory tool, no doubt. I'm hoping during that workshop we can be in front of it and see what we think it would be the best criteria for their child to attend. I also think, and I'm just going to conclude with this, Mr. Porter, and I'll go back to Superintendent Browning, as they have a separate lawyer to deal with charters only, because the legal ramifications now are getting insurmountable. And, Dr. Lang and Kristen, you do an excellent job, but there's only so much that you can, if we put that comparison, we're going to deny, and it's against what statute. I think this is more and more going to be real, and I think that we will need a professional attorney. There's only so much Jeff Gibson can do. He does so much, and Jim Porter is the school board's attorney, so maybe it's time for us to think about a devoted attorney just because of the legalities, and that's a suggestion just to think about. So, Superintendent Davis, I think the board brings up great points about these 39 schools which need to be addressed. We hired you in terms of helping this end, and to the point that Dr. Hahn spoke, to get our scores not in a way that would match certainly this last COVID year. Can you remark on perhaps your vision to pay attention to these 39 schools, and where do you see this going in the future?
Yes, ma'am. I think it has to be the area of focus. And as Senate Bill 1028, it talks about on line 808 and 815 has become, we have to move away from indicating to actually demonstrating that charter schools are cause an immediate, serious danger to the health, safety, and welfare of our students. I think it's going to be a greater complexity for us to prove that charter schools don't meet criteria. So while we will continue to do so and do our best to make certain that we can show and demonstrate this, whether a charter can open up efficiently or continue to remain efficiently, we have to focus on our persistently low performing schools. I'll give you an example. If you look at the third grade scores and look at the 8 schools under the extended operator, I believe that 6 of the 8 made positive movements, and that's just the concentration that we had in our schools. We'll have a continued analysis of our persistently low performing schools who are all elementary to see where we are. But this was a hard year anyways with the quarantine. But we have got to focus on not only analysis of what programs we offer, but what are we doing to strengthen the core? What are we doing to provide ongoing professional development in these schools to build the capacity of our teachers to make the connection with the curriculum so they understand the spirits of the scope and the standards of the best standards? How are they leveraging it? How are they maximizing PLCs? What are we doing to duplicate best services, best practices every day within our schools? But it cannot start when a child decides that they pick us. We have got to be able to branch and go out to 3-year-old, 4-year-old programs and try to recruit them to come to our school district, especially when we have so many of our schools that are underperforming, are also under-enrolled. So what are we doing to recruit? What programs we put in there to do that analysis? And it goes back to being able to have solid leadership, and also with technology. What are we doing to be able to create the greatest experience for our children that can move and interact with the greatest resources and equipment they need to be able to compete inside and outside of our classrooms? And we are doing just that every day.
Thank you, and we definitely appreciate your passion, and we will definitely be working with you. This is a great board. Thank you, board members, for this intensive discussion, and thank you, Ms. Davis and Dr. DeLange, and all Mr. Romano, Lannis Robinson, and Chief Newman. We're going to go ahead and go into the code of conduct. Respectfully, these people have prepared, and I want them to have their opportunity. But keep in mind, and I think Member Snively and Member Hahn, you might not have heard because you screeched in a little bit later, but we are going to probably squeeze in the remainder of the code of conduct during or after this, during the special session, because I don't think the special session will last the whole time. So that's something to be considered. Okay, we're going to take a 2 to 3 minute break, and I think I put down 200 sit-ups and 1 mile jog, and then be back. And keep smiling, because we have to.
I agree. I want to make sure.
popping out.
Board members, we're going to begin. I know. I think, do not get angry when I ask for us to do these impossible physical tasks. It's a little bit in my DNA, so I apologize, Member Vaughn. There is a coach in me. It's the only time I can vent out my frustrations. So at any rate, no more psychology. I just did want to make sure that we had an opportunity to listen to a very well-prepared subject area and group representing the Student Code of Conduct. Ms. Bays, thank you so much. Joshua Crystal and Katrina Hudson. You two and you three have done amazing work, and we want to hear about it. Board members, we will run out of time. You realize that. So on Thursday, if you have questions, that would be a great time for us to really get maybe some more information. And Josh and Katrina, I hope that you all can be there, and Ms. Bays as well. So that would be, our default. Okie dokie. Ms. Bays? Yes, you're on.
No, you can. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Chair Gray. Thank you, board members, for this opportunity. I do appreciate the rich conversation that we had this earlier hour. I do not want to rush what we're going to go through today, and I look forward to the opportunity to present today, as well as continue the discussion on Thursday as well. In addition to having Josh and Katrina here, I do want to acknowledge our terrific staff in the back right there. They are also from the Office of Student Engagement and from the Division of Climate and Culture, and you will hear over and over this morning that these two entities have been working together tirelessly for the sake of our students. You have quite a hefty notebook in front of you. We're going to touch upon this and try to summarize it for you. You also have 3 additional items that were given to you this morning. One is just an addendum to page 12 in the notebook, and then 2 of them are data sheets for you. One, a data sheet on referrals, and one for civil citations. Again, we will summarize this for you as we go through, and we'll have time for plenty of questions on Thursday. So what we're going to review today, first of all, is just the purpose and the state statute requirements for us. We'll also talk about the committees who were a part of the revision process, the Student Code of Conduct revision process itself, as well as the data that led to it and key changes. So let's take a look first at what the purpose was in doing this. The last time that we updated the Student Code of Conduct was in the year 2016-17, and what we'd like to do now and moving forward is address the following. We want to make sure that we have district-wide school expectations for positive behavior. We want to make sure that the guidelines for consequences for behavioral infractions are preventative, proactive, and positive. We have to ensure that social, emotional, and mental health supports are included when we are talking about consequences for behavioral infractions. And we want to make sure that we are also assigning the least restrictive consequences for behavioral infractions. Additionally, we want to make sure that the behavioral infractions and the arrest data are now continuously reviewed. We want to reduce these and ultimately work toward eliminating the school-to-prison pipeline. We must always update the legislation with the state and local discipline codes included. And above all, we want to make sure that this is a user-friendly document that is easily accessible, downloadable, and printable for all of our stakeholders, and that it does share the vision of our overall district strategic plan. So very quickly, we'll take a look at what the state requires us to do. First of all, we have to account for the student attendance, their health, safety, and welfare listed in the Student Code of Conduct, and the supports we'll put in place for them. We also need to make sure that we are sharing this with all stakeholders, both at the school level and the district level, as well as for the community. Additionally, it is incumbent upon us to provide the policies and the procedures for all disciplinary action to be taken. And we have to explain the rights and the responsibilities of students as well as for parents. We did have 2 committees working on this throughout the year. One was a district-based committee that was formed from various departments within the district. And then we had a community review committee that was comprised of principals, assistant principals, teachers, counselors, students, community members, and community groups. And there is a tab in your notebook that lists all of the components and all of the committee members. So our process in doing this first this morning will be just to quickly walk you through the timeline, share our areas of opportunity, look at the behavioral data that led to those areas of opportunity, and then we'll focus on the key changes and additions that we are placing in the Student Code of Conduct. The timeline for this work actually began nearly a year ago, back in July, when we started to take a look at the behavioral matrix. We wanted to investigate what we had in place for Tier 1 behavior interventions. We also wanted to look at changing our change of placement to a change of environment. This work took place from July through January. As we looked at the Office of Student Engagement, we started to meet with our district committee members. And we also, for the first time, started to really put processes in place for developing data tracking and analysis. In December and January, we then shared all of this with our school-based administrators, as well as the behavior matrix. Also, we were taking a look at the change of environment and Tier 1 behaviors. By April, we were ready with the revisions. We shared this not only with the district committee, but with the community committee, bringing us to where we are now. So our opportunities to strengthen the current code of conduct. What we want to make sure we include are strategies to reduce the number of arrests, along with strategies to ensure that there is equity when consequences are assigned. We want to provide strategies for lowering the number of behavioral infractions overall. Procedures for addressing behavior should be proactive, preventative, and positive. We want to make sure that we provide alternatives to removing students from class and from school. We must include social emotional learning and mental health supports. We also need to include social media infractions and consequences. And additionally, we want to make sure that we have PBIS, positive behavior interventions and supports, training at every school, as well as the transformation network and the non-transformation network. And finally, we want to make sure that our behavioral tiers of support are used to support school-wide positive behavior. So what we'd like to do now is take a look at the data, which led us to realize that these are the areas of opportunity we have. We're going to be looking at the data in 3 different areas. First, arrest data, then we'll look at overall referrals, and finally we will look at the newly discovered data we have for social emotional learning. If we take a look at the number of arrests that we have had on campus, we can see that we are trending in the right direction. We do want to note that for the 2019-20 school year, that was really a limited year since the 4th quarter we had students out of campus. And this past year has been unusual as well, as we did have a significant number of students that were doing e-learning. That being said, we are still trending in the right direction, and this is due to many of the supports that we've put in place already, which we will delineate. It's important to note that when we look at our arrests on campus by race, that we realize that there has been a disproportionate number of arrests for our students of color. What this graph shows, the orange columns are representative of the arrests done, income earned by our black students. The gray ones are Hispanic, the green are white students. And although we are still considering this a huge area of concern, you can tell by this that we are closing the gap, which is important to note. When we look at the arrests by gender, again, we can see there was a disproportionate number of arrests for our boys. And while, again, this is an area of concern, we have made significant strides in closing the gap and in lowering the number overall. In taking a look at the number of arrests for our students with disabilities, once again, we had a disproportionate number of arrests for our students with disabilities. But again, we are effectively closing the gap. So let's take a look at the referrals that are still acts of behavioral incidents, but which do not lead to arrest. These top 4 referrals right here are the most common behavioral incidents that we have at the middle school and high school. And what's interesting to note is that none of these are egregious acts of violence. They're tardiness, skipping class, being disobedient, and being disruptive. We've been working to show a decline in these, which you can see that we're doing, and doing this in tandem not only with our student services, but also with academic services. Because what we need to do is to really make sure that our classrooms are places where the students want to be, where they are engaged, where they're happy to be learning, and to eliminate, therefore, their desire to be tardy or to skip class or to be disruptive. If we look at this over a 3-year span, we can see that we are trending in the right direction, both with disobedience and disrespect and disruptive behavior and tardiness. What I'd like to point out, which will be incumbent and we will show you in the coming years, is that disrespect will disappear altogether. This is one of the areas that we have eliminated as a possible referral for behavior, because disrespect is a totally subjective term. It's subjective according to gender, by race, by age, and it's something that we cannot have in there as a referral. So this has been eliminated altogether. There's another point here that I'd like to just share in terms of tardiness. Tardiness, as we know, is often not the function of the students, but is a function of what parents are having to endure trying to get their students to class. This was an entirely tough year because of COVID. As we entered schools, as I'm sure you all learned, there was a waiting line and a queuing line where we had to have social distancing and we had to take temperatures and we had to sign in. That delayed the process of getting students to class. So while we still have a high number of tardies, part of this was really due to the effects of the environment around us. There are still some other areas where we are trending well, but which have our eye as areas of opportunity. We are significantly decreased the number of bullying, decreasing the number of physical attacks, and decreasing the number of sexual offenses. In the color-coded blued sheet that you have, you will be able to see in there every single infraction that we have listed, and you'll see the trends over 4 years of data. And keep in mind that we are just now able to, this year, have really accurate data analysis, and we're providing this to schools every single month. So what have we done? Before we move into the social emotional data, we want to take a look and share with you what we have done thus far to lower the number of arrests and to lower the number of behavioral infractions. First of all, as Chief Newman referred to earlier, civil citations are now mandatory for first-time misdemeanors. While these have been in place for over a decade, it was a choice of whether students could be arrested or whether they could be served with a civil citation. So now it's mandatory for all first-time misdemeanors. In addition to that, all serious behavioral infractions from any school are immediately referred to the Office of Student Engagement for prompt action and for centralized equity and consistency in consequences. Once the Office of Student Engagement learns of an infraction, there is an immediate meeting held. We are focusing on placing the least restrictive consequences on students. And, as you'll see in the next bullet, we have our team of social, emotional, and mental health support staff at all meetings to provide immediate supports to the students and to the families. Additionally, we have held trainings on the behavior matrix, the process of going to the Office of Student Engagement and addressing infractions with all school-based administrators, all principals and assistant principals. The Office of Student Engagement has focused on partnering as well with our local law enforcement agencies and school resource officers, and trainings not only on civil citations but on the code of conduct as well is planned throughout the summer. All of these are part of what have contributed to the decreasing number of arrests this past year. If we take a look at the steps that we have done to reduce the number of referrals, as I mentioned earlier, disrespectful has been removed. That's no longer an option, so that will disappear altogether. We have explicitly identified what disruptive behaviors are, so that now if a teacher feels someone in the class is being disruptive, they cannot just say, that child's annoying me or that child's bothering me. They have to really explicitly explain what the expectations in the classroom are for the students to follow. And then if it does warrant a referral, they have to explicitly outline exactly which expectations were breached. We're addressing skipping, tardies, and leaving campus offenses, not only through teacher trainings through our division right here, but also through academic services. Again, this goes back to making sure that we have fully engaged students and by offering content and strategies for our teachers that will want our students to remain in class. The classroom management trainings are being continuously offered through this summer, and it's interesting to note all of our classroom management trainings for the summer have already been filled, as well as a new training that we have offered for teachers in how to welcome back students who have left your room for a change of environment and are now returning. That presents some tricky maneuvering as well, so those trainings have already been filled, and we're going to be adding more throughout the summer. We do want to note that there are a couple of additions, and that is for vape points and vape products and social media disruption. We will get to these as level 3 offenses in just a bit. I do want to add just a couple of notes with regard to how we are addressing the school to prison pipeline, as this is a concern for all of us. As I said, our civil citations are now mandatory for first-time misdemeanors rather than arrests. This will initially drop the number of arrests that we've had by 60%. Last year we had about 400 first-time misdemeanors. Of those, only 41% of them were issued civil citations. So now the other 60% will also have civil citations. The Office of Student Engagement now oversees all hearings, so therefore we're having consistent recommendations for disciplinary procedures, and these are being addressed immediately. As soon as the Office of Student Engagement has a call from a school, it takes about 21 minutes for them to process electronically what needs to happen. Parents are invited in. Our staff members from Social Emotional Learning, ESE, Student Services are all invited in, and they are there to support the students as well. The discipline matrix has been revised to include a menu of consequences now, and they all begin with positive supports, such as restorative justice, parent conferences, peer mediation. All of these social, emotional, and mental health supports are included as well, and alternatives for out-of-school suspensions. Our goal is to keep our students in the school to avoid arrests and to avoid suspensions. All school administrators have been trained. These will continue, as I said, throughout the summer. And now, again, it's important to note that we are tracking the data by month. We are tracking it by race, by gender, by disability, and this is being shared with our principals, with our assistant principals, because we want them to be proactive in addressing the discipline as well. So let's take a look at our third area of discipline data, and this is our social emotional learning. As you know, we have been working with Panorama this year to take a look at how our students feel about themselves. We surveyed them in November and again in May, and these two data points here show side by side how our students are trending. The first category is whether or not students feel there is a positive energy in their environment. We've lost a little bit of ground in this area, as well as with the second column, which is students believing whether or not their teachers are enthusiastic, and finally, whether or not their teachers have concern for their well-being. Again, I really want to share that this is a function, I think, not just of what is happening in classrooms, but what we all have been experiencing due to COVID. It was very difficult for all of us to keep ourselves energized, to keep our masks on, to keep ourselves social distance. It's hard not to want to bring our children together and let them work in close groups together. So we do understand that there was a dwindling enthusiasm and a dwindling just energy in the room. We thoroughly expect this to be revived as we start the year again, and we're going to be putting in extra special supports and strategies not only for our students, but for our teachers as well. A few other areas of opportunity between our 6th grade and 12th graders. Do our students feel respected by their peers? Less than 50% do. Do they feel a sense of belonging? Again, less than 50%. And do they feel like they have a connection with adults? Again, we feel these are, again, symptomatic of COVID and students not being consistently with their peers, consistently with their teachers. They're having to be homeschooled, e-learning at home, in and out because of quarantines. We just haven't had consistency in learning, and we are looking forward to this being completely eradicated. A few more research points were brought to us and shared with us through Panorama. Students who show low social awareness are 2.5 times more likely to have behavioral incidents. Students who have high self-management are 75% less to have failing grades. And finally, students who are highly engaged are 57% less likely to be absent in school. None of this is new information, but it all provides starting points again for us to focus on this year. So what is underway, and what are we doing right now to support our students with social emotional supports? The Office of Student Engagement and Student Services are now partnering with Panorama team extensively. We are meeting practically every week to analyze data and to determine next steps. We have ongoing collaboration between the Office of Student Services, Office of Student Engagement and Student Services. Everything that we do in developing everything from consequences to supports for families is all done in conjunction with each other. Our mental health, exceptional education, and our student services are at all change of environment hearings. And again, this is to provide services not only for our students, but for our families as well. And just recently, we're adding the climate and culture resource teacher positions for our high schools. All of this being said, we know we have areas of opportunity. We have the data to show where these areas of opportunity are. It's now time to take a look at what changes we have put in place, what additions we have made, and to note that these are underway. This simple table provides an overview. We're going to walk you through each of these more explicitly. So we'll take a look at our changes first. In the previous edition of the Code of Conduct, the rights and responsibilities of students and parents were listed in multiple areas. It was a little bit confusing and difficult to find them. You can find them all now beginning on page 8. And in your notebook, you'll see that you have a version of the old, current, existing Code of Conduct. You have the red line version, which is almost entirely redlined. And then you'll have the new version. And it is the new version of on page 8 where these rights and responsibilities have been consolidated. Previously, the procedures for disciplinary action had some strong focal points on stages of discipline and guidelines of suspension. There were many references there to removing students from class and from school with few considerations for preventative measures. So what we have added now, beginning on page 16, are the new procedures for disciplinary action. They are incredibly detailed, and they include the following: classification of violations, the hearings, transportation, student discipline procedures, even disruption at the magnet transfer ramps, out-of-school suspensions and those procedures, appeals, expulsions, and the discipline matrix. Another change that we have is within the process for our hearings, and as I mentioned earlier, it used to be a very long process. So formally, when a student had an egregious act, they were immediately suspended from school for 10 days. During that time, the school was required to have kind of a review committee meeting within the school. They also had to complete and submit a paper packet to the hearing office, and then a hearing was scheduled. The entire length of time that this could take before a hearing and a determination was made could be up to a month. What we have in process now is a change of environment, first of all, rather than a change of placement. Because what we want to recognize is that sometimes a child just needs to be removed from their immediate environment, but it might entail removing them from a class, from their schedule, from their peers, and just giving them an alternative setting within the same school. When a school reaches out to the Office of Student Engagement now, they do so electronically. It is a very quick turnaround time before a meeting is held and before we can determine what the next change is for those students. Additional changes have also been made just to update and reflect state and local changes in codes and definitions. And we have even more additions now to the Student Code of Conduct. First of all, we have language assistance provided in an array of languages. Those are all beginning on page 7. Our support services have been extremely identified and increased, with social, emotional, and mental health services offered not only within the behavior matrix, but again at all of our change of environment meetings. The MTSS process, the multi-tiered system of supports, and the positive behavior interventions and supports are now highly identified and detailed within the Student Code of Conduct, beginning on page 13. The focus on this is to make sure that we have prevention and intervention strategies embedded as well as consequences. This slide really delineates what the differences now are in the Office of Student Engagement. Formerly, our area offices, and we had 8 area offices, operated pretty independently. Now, for the sake of having consistency and expediency, all referrals that are egregious come straight to the Office of Student Engagement. The requests for hearings are now speeded up, as I said. Instead of it being a minimum of 10 days suspension, we can now process the entire hearing to start within 21 minutes of the school submitting the packet. The meetings are held immediately. Changes of environment now can include more than just removal from school. The behavior matrix is included as well. It provides low-level positive supports as well as an array of choices for the teachers and for administrators to consider. And finally, and most critically, is the behavioral data is now being collected and is being shared monthly. The discipline matrix is something that I hope you all will take some time taking a look at. It begins on page 23, and it's quite extensive. You'll see in there that we, again, do start to offer an array of options for administrators to consider, beginning with the proactive and preventative measures, such as parent involvement, preventative supports, social, emotional, and mental health supports, restorative justice, safety plans, threat assessments, and a focus on the least restrictive consequences and ongoing supports. We want to show you 2 quick slides that show you exactly what the current matrix looks like. You can see that although it does show the 5 stages of consequences, there is a focus on the right-hand side for guidelines to suspension. Suspension was a primary tool that was used that we are moving away from.
Oops.
This is what the new discipline matrix looks like, and we've used the social media disruption as an example. Across the top, we show the progression of incidents in case a student does do the same behavioral infraction more than once. We have differentiated levels, and they are highly defined. And then we have the menu of options for administrators to consider. Again, we are focusing on using the least restrictive consequences possible. The next addition, as we've mentioned several times, as Chief Newman did, is the benefits of our civil citation. So I want to take just a minute to explain what happens when a civil citation is invoked. Right there, at that time that a civil citation is incurred, the evaluation and the sanctioning occurs immediately. The students are referred to the Juvenile Arrest Avoidance Program, or JAP, and they are enrolled, and immediately, right then, they are taken into the JAP, and instead of having to wait for court appearances or for even court appointments, their enrollment starts immediately. Once they start participating, there is a provision for interventions for them with social, emotional, mental health services for the students as well as for their family members, parents, and for siblings. Additionally, there is a variety of consequences and diversion strategies that are employed for these students, which are going to be reflective of what their infraction was. So it may be including but not limited to having them provide community service, restorative justice, and restitution. And again, these all happen immediately rather than having to wait for a court appointment. This is also critical. There is no criminal record for a civil citation once they complete the Juvenile Arrest Avoidance Program. And as I mentioned earlier, of the nearly 400 juvenile arrests that we had last year, only 41% of them were issued a civil citation. In moving forward, all of our first-time misdemeanors will be required to have a civil citation instead of an arrest. So what we'd like to do now, in taking a look at our communication to stakeholders, we have consolidated this into one document that we'd like to place on the website to have it be accessible and downloadable practically as a book for everyone to be able to have. We want to share it with all of our school-based administrators, teachers, and staff members. We'd like to share it with all parents and caregivers. We would like to have it translated into as many languages as possible. And in addition to that, what we recommend is that we provide the training and provide sharing this not only with school-based administrators, teachers, and staff, but with our resource officers and our law enforcement agencies, our parents, our families, the community members. We'd like to make sure that we meet with our community groups, our business partners, our faith-based partners. We would like to train not only the school-based people, but we would like to offer community town hall meetings so that we can share this, answer questions, strengthen the partnerships, and really educate our entire community about all that we have done, all that we continue to do. And the hopes really is to keep our children in school, to provide supports for our teachers and our students, and strategies for everyone to be able to keep our children safe and sound and healthy in our schools. So now I will turn it over to questions. Chair Gray, I'll leave it up to you about how much time you want to spend today or whether you'd rather wait until Thursday.
I think, Board, if you don't mind, I think we just need to really rest because we're going to have a long night tonight. And I know that once we get started with our questions, and you know how it goes, but I know that Thursday we will make those questions happen. And board members, again, rest up because tonight will be a long one. But I think also that we did a lot of reflection today on charter schools, which was good. And Ms. Bays, I can't thank you enough, too, for the thorough reading of so much work that Katrina and Joshua and your staff has done and will be doing. So please, I hope you don't feel that we're being rude to you at this point in time. That's not our motive, but I want to take good care of our boards to make sure they're fresh for tonight. Okay, board members, if you're okay to leave, of course you can stay and perhaps for another 10 minutes to ask questions individually. That's okay. Oh, sorry. Adjourn.